Hello and welcome back, you home defense enthusiasts and you militant anti-materialists who are bent on relieving the wealthy of the burden of their almost certainly ill-gotten gains. I return you to a screen that I haven't showed before, but I've seen a few times. Actually, it's the first time I've seen this bit. I am assuming Francine is my wife. I have earned $42 for not being online for 3 hours, and Francine has earned twice that. So, here is the big reason of keeping a wife alive, I guess, is she has a much better job than you do. Though probably not nearly as fun or as risky, considering your job appears to be building traps in your house and then stealing from other people, hopefully navigating your way around their traps, or through them, depending on the tools you take with you. But okay, now, a quick disclaimer before we begin. We have got a bit of a design here. As you can see, it looks quite tutorial-ish, and that is indeed because this is a tutorial. It looks like someone has been through my house at least once. Now, the thing with this, I've decided to set this up as a bit of a tutorial for you guys. Mostly on the electronic side of things. This recording is being made out of sync, well, out of chronological order with my actual gameplay footage. I've recorded a lot more of that than I have uploaded yet, and it'll be uploaded over the next few days. But a few people have requested that I show how the electronics work, and I know there's some discussion about getting a wiki together to explain how what things do, and a couple of people who are still a bit lost as to how to get your traps doing the funky, crazy things that you may have seen in other people's houses. And so I thought I'd throw this together to try and help with that. It's fairly simple. I've got one of everything here, more or less, and I intend to quickly show you what it all does. So here we go. Get out, Francine. Yes, I know I bear a striking resemblance to your husband. Yes. Now, what I've done here is I've hooked up the power. It's transferring through. These blocks specifically transfer power. This is a wired wooden wall, and this is a steel wall. As you can see, power is moving through. Or well, rather, what you can see here is power is moving up here. Now, this is the first thing I'll show you, a wire bridge. Now, it's not immediately obvious just yet because, you know, it's more or less acting like a normal wire would. It's passing energy through every side. But if we have a look at this rotary toggle switch, I click on that, you notice that only this grate went out. The rotary toggle switch will only pass power in the direction of the orange line. And when you step on it, the orange line moves. So currently it's passing power east to west. Now it's passing it north to south. Or rather south to north in this case. The wire bridge has two separate wires, but they are quite distinct, whereas these ones, all wires are touching, power will move in all four directions. This one, it'll only move from east to west or south to north. So that's the first thing to be aware of. Now the next one is that power will transfer through devices. So here's a switch, I turn it on. Not only this turns on, but so does this, and so does this. Turn them off, turn them on, turn them off, turn them on. So as you can see, the power will move wherever these little blue sort of power connectors are. And as you can see on all of these, they have power connectors on every side. So the power is transferred as you might expect. And the other thing is, again, this switch will transfer power down here. So that's all good. So the next one to show you is the difference between a sticky switch and a regular switch. Here's a powered door, and we're passing the power from the switch through a steel wall to the door, and technically to another steel wall, but that's not part of this tutorial. If we just step on this tile here, the door opens, door closes, door opens, door closes, etc. So as you can see, you can turn this off after it's turned on and turn it back on after it's turned off. However, the sticky switch, denoted by the little orange sort of latches, I guess, when we step on this, those flatten down and hold it down. We can no longer toggle the switch. So once that's triggered, that door is now closed, or the electric floor is now turned on, or the bridge is now turned on. Whatever it is, it's now stuck. So the next thing to show you are some simple ones. The difference between these devices. This is a voltage triggered inverted switch. So with this one, it will only pass power from east to west if it's receiving power from the north. Or rather, it will if it's not receiving power from the north. As you can see, this switch is currently turned on, and that was something else I wanted to show you. You can have two types of switches that you can place in the build phase. A switch that's turned off by default, and a switch that's turned on by default. There's no difference between the two other than their initial state, and only the initial state. But you will find there's quite a lot of times where you'll want to use both of these in your designs. But we've only got that here right now, so that this is breaking the circuit. Now, the thing about these tiles is that they will only accept power from the top. I'll show you this more clearly in the build phase, but in the build phase you'll see when I'm placing the tile, it only has sockets on the east, the west, and the north. It doesn't have sockets on the south, so this, for example, has absolutely no effect on it, and I'll show you that in a moment. When we power this off, as you see, without power, this shunts back, completes the circuit, or well, completes the line, and power is free to transfer across. When it's powered, this pushes down and breaks the line. So we're going to turn that off. Now, if this receives power, that breaks. This is now transferring power. It's got the sockets on the top, but this doesn't have a receiving socket on the bottom, so it can't accept it. So we'll just turn that off on that side. Now this one works differently. This one will only complete the line if it's powered. So the difference between the two is that this one has a longer, I guess, pneumatic arm or something like that, you could say, and this one has a shorter one. So in its default position, this is broken. In its powered position, it's on. And like the other switch, it only receives power from the top. This makes no difference whatsoever. And down here we have just a collection of things that show you what doesn't transfer power. Doors can't transfer power. Pits can't transfer power. Regular wooden walls can't transfer power. Concrete walls and windows, neither of these will transfer power. As you can see, this is completely safe, and it will always be safe. Now, you can use wooden walls, especially, as decoys. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between that and this in a dark room. Like, especially if there's lots of them along, and you're running along and you're not really paying attention, because this socket on the bottom, it's not really... I mean, this has a socket. You can get confused with the socket coming up from the wire, if that makes sense. So you can't really tell that this doesn't have a socket on the bottom, because this would kind of like lay on top of it. If you're paying attention, you'll notice there's no wires inside, or if you can see the other sides and they're clear, you can notice that. But that can be used as a red herring and force people to try, usually, false paths, which will ultimately end in their death, rather than going down the heavily trapped, or what looks to be a heavily trapped approach, which actually leads to your vault. And before we leave, I just realised I haven't quite gone over the pet, and as they're at least as important in the trap system, I mean, certainly the pitbull is used almost everywhere, but the cat and chihuahua can also be very, very important parts of a trap system. I thought I'd give you a quick rundown on how they work. So, actually, let me choose that so I'm not accidentally placing any pitbulls. First, I've made a little pen just so I can show you how they path, because the only real difference between the animals is how they navigate, and the very big difference that the pitbull will kill you, whereas the other animals will not. So, to demonstrate this, I'll go into burglary mode. Pitbull's down there. Now, the first thing with the pitbull is it will always path direct to you. As you can see there, even if this was open, he wouldn't be making his way around to try and get to me. He will always try to maintain the same position. See there, he just went straight down. So, we'll do that again. And now he'll try to match position with me here. And you can use these in your traps in a way like you can have pressure pads, things like that. But generally the pitbull won't be used in that way. It's more a weapon than it is a trap component. But as you can see, it's always just trying to match my position. If you are faced with a pitbull, the best thing you can do is try to get it blocked on something. Right now, it's stuck there. It's stuck on that wall. If this were broken, I could go inside, I could move around freely, and I'd be safe. So that's the pitbull. If it gets you, it will kill you. Next, we'll quickly do the Chihuahua. This one will be quite quick. Chihuahua acts in exactly the same way the pitbull does. It isn't any faster. It only takes one turn when you take a turn, but it will path in exactly the same way. If it reaches you, it'll just dance around your feet, yapping impotently. And that's the Chihuahua. And finally, the cat. Now, the cat is different in the way it paths. It is the only animal that will do everything it can to stay away from you. As you can see, it's trying to get as far away from me as it can. Cats are almost always only used as a means of activating pressure pads. It's really their only use in the game that I've found. It does nothing to you. I mean, it'll always try to stay away from you. If I managed to step onto the same tile as it, it wouldn't hurt me. It would just start bolting in a different direction. But that's the cat. So with that, we've covered more or less every tile you can place. I hope this has been useful to some of you. Again, I think most people have had confusion over how the electronics work, not so much the animals, though given how rarely the cat is employed in trap design, maybe this has been informative on them. Not too many people have seen them to experiment, but I hope, again, that this has been useful to some of you, and for those who already knew the game, or have been watching my Let's Play of it, probably not as much, but I still hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless. And I will see you in the next one. But until then, do take care.